DDP, how are you?
Dude, awesome. God has blessed me on so many different levels. At 66 years young, I'm seriously living my best life, which is kind of crazy with everything that's happened in my life.
Man, so
Yeah.
that's hard to say. Come on, man. Like look at all that memorabilia behind you, right? Like all of the
Yeah.
things that you've done in your past, right? I mean, like, look at this. You're,
It's everywhere.
but you're
I
saying
tell
you're living your best life now.
Yeah. It took me, I've been very lucky with women. I've found a lot of good women throughout my life. And I love women. But I'm with the person that which I found my one.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in inspirational, listening, surrounding yourself with things that inspire you, surrounding yourself with things that inspire you. And one of the okay, now you got me.
I do,
No, you don't.
yes. I
Hold
don't
on,
have
let me
the
get my
video
face
though.
up. Now
Nope.
I get that up. I'll get it up. Okay.
We're still recording. I let the whole thing record. I'll just cut it out at the end.
Okay, cool.
But you were saying,
So
so you're a big believer in finding things that inspire you.
yeah, find things that inspire you. I love Steve Harvey. And it's crazy. My relationship with Steve Harvey, I've never met him. But one day I saw him on a guy named Billy Bush out of LA had his own show. And he was like, God, Steve, you look great. You look like you've dropped like 40 pounds. He goes, 42 pounds. He goes, yeah, I feel great. He goes, how did you do it? So I came across this wrestlers program. His name's Diamond Dallas Page. And the way he was talking about me, like he didn't know me as a fan. He knew me by this guy who had these amazing transformations. And and I started doing it, and it was look at me. I mean, I feel great, and I feel younger. I feel better. And I was like, oh my God, Steve Harvey does my program, and then he just started popping up in different places where I'd see him, and I saw him watching doing this, doing that, and then I saw him doing his inspirational stuff online.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the real deal, man. He obviously is a great speaker, a great showman, but he believes what he talks about. And one of the things he said, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along a woman, not, he said, if you have a man who hasn't changed into who you want him to be, you're not the one. He said, because a real man will change one time for one woman. And if he ain't changed for you, you're not that woman. And I thought, wow, that's who Paige is. Like my wife's name is Paige.
Okay.
So now she's Paige Page. But before that, she was Paige McMahon. No relation, just crazy, crazy notion. And I dated her 10 years ago. I was dating a number one woman. I was in that point in my life where, I've been divorced. I was, I lived with another girl for a while. I just realized I'm never going to be with one woman again, ever. Like I'm going to be with multiple women. I could never have to lie, ever. I can always be me. I never even tell a white lie. I can just be who I am 100%. And Paige was one of the girls I was seeing. One of them, though, she was at some point, I mean, one of them was being so everything that I was looking for in another human being. And part of it was I could still be me. And at some point, I fell in love with her, and it didn't work out. For a year and a half, it was strong, and then people change, and she became who she really was, and I'm still me. Like, I'm still me 100%, and that wasn't working for her. And not being with anybody else, not cheating, not fooling around, nothing. Doing like this for the right way. And it got to a point where it wasn't working for me or her, and we just moved on. And I saw Paige on this feed on Facebook. Now, I'd talked to her, seen her in 7 years. And one of the reasons why I didn't choose to spend more time with her, she was 18 years younger than me. She was a adventure athlete where you run 100-mile races.
Ultra marathons. Yeah.
Yeah. She put a backpack on her back and ran 180 miles through the Grand Canyon in 6.5 days. She was traveling the world. She'd done well when she was younger, and she was a minimalist, and she was following her mom's bucket list that she had gotten cancer and tried to help her, heal, but she had lung cancer, and she died of lung cancer in 9 months. Never smoked a cigarette in her life. And Paige was following her bucket list. And about 2.5 years ago, I'm single again, and I'm never going to be with one girl again, ever. I've got that in my head, like, now for sure. And I came across Paige, and she was like, "Hey guys," this is a paraphrase what she said. She said something along the line of, "Today's a really great day, but it's kind of sad because today's the end of my mom's bucket list." And her bucket list was to see the 7 wonders of the world. And she's like, "Here I am on the Great Wall of China, about to spread the last of my mom's bucket list." And I was like, wow, she did it. Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something, you could take it to the bank. Like, it's going to happen. Most people aren't like that. And that's what I've learned in my 66 years. Most people are not, but she was. And I just called her and congratulated her, left her a message. She called me back. We started talking. And at some point, I said, I'd really like to come up there, Nashville, where she lived. I go, take you out to dinner or something. And she's like, "Why don't we just talk for a while? Like, really get to know each other." Because I didn't realize when I stopped seeing her, I heard her, and I didn't realize that.
Right.
The bottom line is 3 months we talked and did texting and wrote to each other. And then we met on December 9th in 2019. And before that,
Right before COVID. So right before the pandemic.
Right before pandemic. She had written me something the night before we were to meet. She said, "Finding one's true love is finding someone who speaks your language, so you don't spend an eternity translating your soul." And man, 2.5 years later, living through COVID too, because she came to see me at one point.
Look, this is how that's a delineator, right? Like, man, like I told all my friends that made it with their girls through COVID, I was like, you just get married. I was like, just get married, because like this is it. It doesn't get worse. You're stuck with this person, just get married. You're done.
It was amazing. We've been 2.5 years later. We never argue. Like, if I see her starting to go a little, like, she has a little bit of, we call it a little bit of autism in her, because she'll get like loud noises, and she starts getting into herself. Hey baby, it's okay. Just, I'll take care of this. You do that over there. And then if I start to get loud, which, go figure, and she'll go, "What are you yelling for? I didn't do anything." And it just makes me go, "Ooh." And if you can go 2.5 years, like my goal, Elliot, and this is a far-fetched goal, But that world championship title, which is like our Oscar in that business, me saying that I'm going to be a world champion is as far-fetched as you could be, except for saying I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. As far-fetched as you could be. I put that right up there with this. My goal is to never have any real baggage with my wife. That's my goal. 2 years to the day, on December 9th, 2021, I threw her a surprise wedding. And like when I told her brother and her sister, mainly her brother, because she'd said forever, I'm never marrying again. She'd been single for 15 years. And he's like, are you sure you want to do that? I said, yeah, I am. So I had all the family waiting, and it was a red and white Christmas party she thought we were going to.
Okay.
And when we were staying in the same hotel that we met in Chattanooga for the first time after 7 years. And I said to her, we're going, we got a driver going to take us to this party, and it's in Nashville, and we're going to drink and have a good time on the way up there. And then she got to the bottom of the stairs, she saw her brother, and she looked at me, and I told her, I said, at some point I'm going to marry you. I don't know when it is, but at some point we're going to get married. And I never asked her. I just told her at some point we're going to get married. And she looked at me, she goes, oh my God, she goes, is this it? And I said, this is it. And we walked in the room, and the family's there from both sides, and she's crying. And I got down on one knee, asked her to marry me. I asked her dad right after, is it okay, Charles? And he goes, well, I really would have liked it if you asked me before. I said, I'm dyslexic, bro. And she was like walking on cloud nine. And then we walked back into where the area was, where it's a bigger area of this little boutique hotel. And there's 100 more people waiting there.
Oh, nice.
Her friends, my friends. She would call, this is a girl who's seen the 7 wonders of the world. This is a girl who's friggin' seen everything. And so it was the happiest day of her life. And that's how I try to live our life. And I really, honest to God, believe, because we said, like, after 6 months, this will surely calm down.
Right.
After a year for sure. After 2 years for sure, like, no, nothing. Like we just have something. So when I say like my best life is being with my person, the 5 things I'm the proudest of right now in my life, which I've gone through. I've lived 5 lives, but it's my life, my wife, and my kids. It's that world championship belt. It's the Hall of Fame ring. It's the resurrection of Jake the Snake, a documentary that we did that was so powerful. And I've got a community on Facebook that a buddy of mine started just for people who were doing the DDP yoga program. And
I want to get into this a little bit if we could, like this
Sure.
resurrection or this resurrection of you almost, right? Because that wasn't your, what I'm going to assume when you were winning that championship belt and earning your way into the Hall of Fame. It was a much different DDP than what we're talking about now, right? Than who I'm talking to now.
I think mellower, because that happens with age.
Right.
I'm not fighting for anything, because the real fighting didn't go on in the ring. We were actors. We're out there trying to entertain the crowd. The real fighting was in the back. Like,
what was that
fighting, fighting for position? Well, I'll put it like this to you: being a fighter and really understanding, if you could, so let's say a running back. If you're a running back and you never get that chance, but you get the chance one time to get that ball. And if you run for 42 yards, they're going to look a little different at you. And you get to run for another 22 yards. You get to run for that, that 3-yard touchdown. All of a sudden, boom, they look at you completely different.
Let me ask you a question though. because it is scripted out there, right? Like, right. So how, like in this scripted thing, like, so the running back, it's not scripted, man. Like they give you the ball, the other guy's going to try to rip your head off. So in this wrestling world, when it is scripted, how do you become, how do you make that opportunity? Like, how do you become DDP? How do you become The Rock? How do you become Triple H? Because it's all scripted. So how do you do that?
It's so hard. And my point was, the vet and the fighter, you could be seen as the bottom guy on the card. You knock that guy out in the first 3 seconds or the first 2 minutes. Whoa.
Right.
You know, wrestling, when you start, like, then I even got to where I was to get into WCW, Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling, is preposterous the way I did it. And what happened was, I tried wrestling when I was 23. It didn't work out for me. I had 3 matches. I sucked. I hurt my knee. I was taking some time down because you're injured, right? And I got a chance to run my first little rock and roll joint. I was 23, been in the bar business for 7 years. Eventually, I would go on to run bigger and bigger clubs. Eventually, I am so surrounded around wrestlers. Jake the Snake Roberts walked into my club one night.
And this is before you're back with Ted Turner. This is before you're in WCW.
Yes, before I ever get any opportunity at all. Like, I'm 31 years old.
Okay.
Actually, when I first met Jake, I was 30. And he came in my club. If you wrestle in Tampa one day and in Miami the next, that's 300 miles. In between is Fort Myers, Florida. So guys would lay over there. And what happened is Jake came in my club one night and we got shit-faced. You know, friggin', I came up to him. I was like, oh my God, Jake Snake Roberts in the club. You know, like.
So this is random. This is just random. He walks in.
Completely random. And, you know, I basically say, man, you Jake the Snake Roberts? Who wants to know? I said, the guy who runs this place. Yes. What can I do for you? What are we drinking? Which is really funny when you realize that the resurrection of Jake the Snake is me helping him get sober.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, so that's how we meet. Jake literally just left my house an hour ago.
Okay.
And Jake would go on, you know, he's one of the biggest stars in the world. And I was a huge fan of his. Well, he told the other guys, you know, who were friends of his, you should go to see this guy. If you're going to go to Miami to Tampa, stop at Fort Myers. And so guys started coming into the club. Here's a picture one night of Luke the Bushwhacker and Ted DiBiase.
Okay.
And he put this, Luke put that picture up on Facebook. DDP before he's Diamond Dallas Page. Later that night, this is after hours, me doing upside down tequila shooters with $1 Million Man. Like, it was all around me. And one day I just I thought, I'm too old to be a wrestler. I was 31. I'm too old to be a wrestler, but maybe I could be a manager. You know, Jimmy Hart's got the Hart Foundation. Maybe I could be Diamond Dallas Page and have the Diamond Exchange. And I'd have beautiful diamond dolls walk me to the ring. So I made a videotape. And I had a bunch of bouncers working for me who love wrestling. So I had this one guy named John, I called the Big Bad John, another guy, Rock Hard Rick. And then there was Ted E. Bear, he was a midget. And he came out with the Diamond Dolls. I make this videotape and I sent it to the AWA. And they called me and asked me to, they said they want me and my boys. Now imagine this, like, it isn't real at all. And I sent it to them. They said they want to have me and my boys come in for a tryout. But we've got one question. Where are you guys working at? Well, Rob, truth is none of those guys can wrestle. What? Why would you even send us a tape? I'm like, because it's like a secret society. No one can figure out how to get into wrestling. I said, but my guys are ready to start training. If you can put them in a training center and, I could take care of them then, or you could give me someone else. I'm ready to start managing right now. Like, hello, Rob? You don't call us, we'll call you. And
Right.
what really changed my life, Paul E. Dangerously, better known today as Paul Heyman, he left the AWA and went to Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling. And it left a huge void for a young guy that could talk. That's how I got on TV. 2 weeks later, they called me and said, bring all those crazy clothes you wear. Like, here's a picture of me on my 62 Cadillac convertible, pink Cadillac. I got holes in my knees in 1989. I got the diamond dolls. It's a fantasy. It's like, I once heard this preacher say, the quickest way to get there is to act like you already been there. It's propelling an attitude of confidence, like fake it till you make it. So next thing you know, I'm on the AWA on ESPN with wrestling on Saturday nights at 12 o'clock. And I was doing that, but my big break came when I got a call from Florida Championship Wrestling. And it wasn't being involved with Florida Championship Wrestling because nobody's making any money. And Dusty Rhodes came in there for about a year. And the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, took me under his wing and he taught me so much. And we built a real relationship together. And eventually he's the guy who would leave Florida Championship Wrestling because we're not making any money. I'm still running my nightclub the whole time because I'm not making any money. And he's the one who goes to WWF, make money, but then he comes back to Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling to run the show. And because we developed a relationship, he brought me in as a manager and a color commentator. And I got to manage the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin. I got to manage and created his whole look. The Diamond Stud, who is Scott Hall, NWO, Scott Hall. And I developed relationships with those guys. 5 months into my contract, Magnum TA, who is Dusty's right-hand man, pulls me in the office and says, listen, kid, we love what you're doing with the color commentating, but we can't let you manage anymore. I'm like, why? What did I do wrong? He goes, really? He goes, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not your fault. I go, what do you mean it's not my fault? Then let's fix it. He goes, it's not your fault. It's the hair, the clothes, the bling, the wrap, the diamond dolls. Like, you're taking all the attention away from the wrestler when you're out there. I said, Magnum, are you telling me I'm too over the top for professional wrestling? And he said, kid, he started laughing just like you just did, kind of. And he said, it's not your fault. What we should have done was put a pair of tights and boots on you and see if you could do this. Now, Elliot, I'm 35 and a half. To tell you how serious the moment is, how preposterous this part is, I'm going to walk the Freebirds to the ring for the last time. And these guys were the greatest practical jokers ever. Oh my God. I'm a rookie those first 5 months with them, right? Michael really loves me. So does Jimmy. But they rib me all the time. So they're never serious. They're always screwing with me, right? But on that day, they walked up so mellow. They were empathetic. They felt bad for me, because they knew I just lost my gig. And they were being, really, like, hey, dude, sorry, man, but this is the business, And I'm like, hey, guys, don't worry about me. I got this. I got 7 months left of my contract. I'm going to go down the power plant. I'm going to learn how to wrestle. They looked at each other. And when I tell you burst out laughing, Michael like was laughing so hard he like fell down. I gave them both the "you're number one" sign and
Right.
said, "I'll see you guys in the ring." The next day I started at the power plant, and the power plant was a huge warehouse that had 3 rings in it, a gym, and it was freezing. I mean, I can't tell you, Elliot, how many times that first week, man, they beat the hell out of me because they wanted to run me off. Because that's what they do. And everywhere you train for wrestling, they take your money. In this place, they couldn't take my money because this was WCW and they were paying me. But any kind of independent wrestling, they take your money and now they're going to beat
They're going to try to make you quit.
fuck out of you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
look, I agree the same way with fighting. Like, okay, now it's my job in the beginning to see if you'll quit. Because if you'll quit, if you'll quit based on a little bit of hardship, goodbye, this isn't going to be for you.
100%, because it's about to get way harder.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times, Elliot, my body hit that mat at 35 and a half in that freezing gym. And I thought to myself, man, this fake stuff hurts like hell. Like, wow, this really hurts. I can't tell you how many times those first couple of months, man, so beat up and having to do it all again and all again and all again. I can't tell you how many times I said to myself, do I really want to do this?
I'm going to come to that question in a second. When you got canceled, right? Like when they said you can't do, you can't be this manager anymore because you're too big for, you're too much for WCW. How did you go from the disappointment to the shift, right? To like, okay, I have to make something happen.
I went to the disappointment, like immediately. I call that emotional gravity. Mm-hmm. Like nobody can pull you down more than you.
Right.
No one can send you into a tailspin. No one can make you worry, stress you out more than you. Nobody. But it works the other way around too. Like, at first I went down and it started, my world, everything's ending. And then I know, because of pretty much everything I've ever set myself out to do, I've done. Now, it may not be exactly there. It might be a little lower or a little to the left or a little to the right. But there's other times, and that belt's a perfect example, I blew right past it. It's changing the story you tell yourself. It's owning that inner voice. This book I wrote, Positively, good catch, Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It. It is that 6-inch piece of real estate in between your ears. It is the inner voice. It is the story you tell yourself.
Did you develop this or did you always have that?
It took time. It took time and examples because, and I can give you major fucking examples. And I'll only give you one right now. Major examples when something looked like it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, it was the best. And the worst one was when I finally get to the top of the world, I'm according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, in 95, I was like 284 number wrestler in the world. In 96, I was like 106 or something like that. 97 and 98, I was number 4. So easily top 10 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal. And I basically break my back. I rupture my L4 and L5 so severely that 3 spine specialists tell me I'm never wrestling again. And I'll give you this short version because I'm sure you want to come back to this. But I'm told it's over. If I don't get back in that ring in 6 months, that big $58,000 of every 2-week check I was getting, hitting the lottery every fucking week, is gone. That's how DDP yoga comes into my life. And we'll talk about it at a later in the show. But my point, it comes into my life. And you want to talk about emotional gravity. I was as low as I could go
But
And
you just hit
again,
jackpot and then they took it away. And then something took it away.
right. Yeah. Like you're done. Every single athlete, and you understand this being an athlete, but you're an older athlete. Every single young athlete doesn't understand this. You are one injury, just one injury from your career being over. One injury and it's over.
And look, and the likelihood for most athletes, even the professional ones, even that make it to the WWE or the UFC or the NFL, the likelihood is most likely you're not going to be the champion.
Right.
The odds, especially in one-on-one sports, right? Like 100%. In team sports, you have a much higher rate because there's 54 people on the team on the team. You might not even play and you still get that championship ring, right? But in one-on-one sports, it's like zero. It's like 0% of the people become champion. You're going to have to quit one day, and it's going to be over.
You're going to be forced to quit one day.
Yes.
You know, because you're not the guy who started. So my point is, this looked like the worst thing ever happened. The emotional gravity was the worst I've ever felt. But I understand something through repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning. I understand something through repetition that I've got to let that go. I've got to let that go so that I can come back up again. I've got to start to figure out, how am I going to fix this? Guys like The Rock did a whole thing. Dwayne Johnson, the biggest fucking star in the world,
probably
is one of my guys. No, he is the highest paid entertainer in the world, and has been for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down. He did a whole thing on depression. It's on YouTube. Yeah. But so does Donald Trump go down. So does Oprah Winfrey. So does Tom Brady. So does LeBron James. Everybody goes down. The people who understand, I can't stay here. I've got to turn this around. They're the people who come right back up again and start saying, I got this. They're not going to stop me. I am coming back. This is going to happen. Now, I wish I had my iPad here so I could read this thing. But there's a on HBO, there is a documentary on David Geffen. David Geffen's one of the biggest. He's in the Hall of Fame in rock and roll, and he never played a song in his life. You know, he's one of the famous producers in Hollywood, probably one of the most over guys of all time. And he said that, and I wrote this down, and so I have it, but it's on my phone, so I can't friggin' read it right back.
You're good. You're good.
He basically said that we all get to create our own imagination. We are all a figment of our own imagination. He said some people have a greater ability than others to make their imagination true.
True, right.
You know, and that's not the exact quote, but it's something like that. And it's something that I figured out over a period all through my whole life, because I've been hit with one adversity after another, growing up in the broken home and being bounced around like a pinball, and, you know, growing up with ADD and dyslexia and reading at a 3rd grade level at the age of 30. I mean, I've had so many adversities to come over. Becoming a wrestler at 35 is preposterous. You know, and we're not talking about, you know, just getting his break at 35. We're talking about starting to train from element 1, where now you're in the ring with other guys. You really don't know what they're doing either. The odds of them hurting you are incredible. So the bottom line is to understand all of that before I can really say to you, now you're going to be the manager who's going to be a wrestler. They're just going to beat the hell out of you. How do you get respect? Because even when you come out there and you start, you win, we call it an enhancement match. When you know you don't even know the other guy's name. You know, if you're a bottom guy and you get a win there, hey, that's a win, you know? But you're never going to beat anybody who means anything. At some point, 9 months in, by this time, Jake is working in WCW. He was only there for a brief moment in time, like 3 months. But over those 3 months, I was wrestling, and they were using me and Kevin Nash as the Vegas connection. We lose every single night, but we're driving Jake the Snake Roberts around, sitting at the foot of Yoda. Because when it comes to wrestling psychology, Jake was Yoda. And Jake came in the power plant one day, and he saw me in the ring, and I hear Paige, because my first name was Paige Joseph Falkenberg. But I knew that Paige Joseph Falkenberg was never going to draw any money in the world of professional wrestling, hence Diamond Dallas Page. But he knew me as Paige J. He's like, Paige.
So you and your wife actually have the same first name.
Yes. and all, my family, of course, calls Page 1 and Page 2. But my family even knows when we're out, you call me Dallas, because that's who I am. For 25 years, it's my real name.
Right.
And the bottom line is, I don't want to confuse people, because, you know, people like the familiar, they want to feel like they are closer to you. So they want to call you Paige. Like, oh, I'm not going to call him his gimmick name. It's like, it's my real name. So you're going to call, let's see, John Wayne Marion? I dare someone to call the Duke Marion.
Sure.
You know, when he's John Wayne. You know what I mean? So that's my point, that whole thing. Plus, I'm not that same guy. And when you said in the beginning of the show, you're not the same guy as you were then. I am. I'm just better. I'm mentally stronger. I'm way more educated. I understand the negative pitfalls that we as humans fall into. And I have a better understanding than most people, you know, because there are certain people who can imagine better than others.
Right, right. Let me ask you this question. How did you make the switch from stopping what was the switch when you had to stop pro wrestling?
More than anything, it was going to WWE. And I didn't realize, like, one of my goals was, I'm going to finish my career in the WWF, now WWE. My career in the WWF, because that's where I grew up, in the Jersey Shore, you know. And
where'd you grow up?
Point Pleasant.
I grew up in South Jersey, a little town right outside of Vineland.
No, yeah, sure, man. Friggin', you know, friggin' Jersey boys. And for me, it was the shore, you know. So I would, from the Jersey You know,
the real Jersey Shore, not that shit where all the New Yorkers go.
and you know, when I was wrestling in the WWE, we had just come off the Monday Night Wars, which man, me and Jake were talking about today. We can go to any Comic-Con, you know, but any good one, and make ridiculous money every single weekend, because of his run in the 80s and my run in the 90s. It's crazy, man, because we were both on so much TV that when you're like, let's say, Friends, no show's been on more than Friends. You know, it's still syndicated everywhere. People feel like they know Rachel and Ross, and, you know, you feel like you know them, and because they're in your living room all the time. Well, we were in the living room for not 30 minutes. We were in for 2-3 hours every Monday, every Thursday, and one Sunday a month. And it was at a time when we were go back to from 1996 to about 2000, maybe 2001, the top 4 shows in professional, you know, in the world of cable television. When we were winning, it was WCW Nitro, That number 2 show was WWF's Raw. Number 3 show might have been SmackDown, or it might have been Our Thunder, and the 4th show was SmackDown. We literally own the cable networks. I mean, think about it, crazy, you know. And so we're in their homes all the time, and the feud on Monday nights was so strong that when Vince finally won the war, he wanted to kill everything in WCW, just like prove it was a fluke, you know? And so it wasn't me personally that they were booking in a bad spot. It was just getting, you know, like, man, they didn't care about drawing money, wanted to prove a point. You know what I mean? So it really soured me on it to a point where I was ready to retire.
How old
And then
are you?
I came 46.
Okay.
And then I came back at 49, and I didn't go to WWE. I couldn't have handled the schedule of 20 to 25 shows a month, you know, driving 100, 200, 300 miles to the next time, hopping a plane and going cross country, only to go back cross country to have my one day off to go back on the road again. At 46, I wasn't 49. I couldn't have done it. It would just beat me up too much. And I went to TNA, which was on Spike TV, and it helped get those guys that contract. And I got to go back and show people what I could do at 49. And everything had to do with, you know, what my program did for me. And I hadn't started it as a business yet. I just had been doing it straight through, and was about, I think I was the beginning stages of me. I was writing the book, Yoga for Regular Guys. The craziest thing is, though, that's at 49. This is 2 months from 64, jumping off the top rope for AEW after blowing my big comeback, and jumping up the top rope to the guys on the floor for my first time ever. And that was like, here I am at almost 64. I can still do this. Now, was I sore the next day? Hell yeah, I was. You know, but I was just out there, risk over reward, you know, and proving a point. So I was ready to retire. Plus, you got to remember, I was running big nightclubs. So I had a real life
job
before wrestling.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid of it. And I had plenty of money saved too, you know, and I went through that though with DDP Yoga. My first ex-wife and I, we're still best friends. She owns a piece of the company, but she could have owned 50%, but she didn't do that. And she, you know, she was the one who, you know, because I couldn't do all the really active stuff that she needed to do and wanted to do. And she was 13 years younger than me. That's why I didn't go with Paige, though, because my first wife and I, you know, we loved each other, but we had other interests. So she wanted to do her, I wanted to do mine. And, you know, we split apart, but it was her move to leave. So I told her, I said, if you take, you know, what I'll give you, I'll always be there for you. Because I knew I had this dream about this, you know, yoga for normal people. That's how it started.
Explain that a little bit. Yoga for normal people.
So at 42, like I said, the worst thing ever happened is I blow my back out, right? They say my career's over. At 42, I'm the guy who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. Like, I'm just that guy. So I understand every single person who goes, oh, yoga. That's why I brand it DDPY today. It'll always be DDP Yoga. But I don't want people, hey, man, I love your yoga. Don't call my shit yoga. It's not yoga. It's yoga rehab, old school calisthenics. It's dynamic resistance, flexing and engaging as you're moving in warrior position or wherever I am. Whatever I'm doing, I've got my heart rate jacked up, standing still. My program is about stretching and strengthening the muscles, ligaments, and tendons, the shit that helps you from getting injured, preventative maintenance. So I blow my back out. They say my career's over. I go to see 3 different spine specialists. They all say the same thing. And Kimberly at the time's like, you really need to try yoga. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing yoga. You know, I mean, I just had that in my brain. Like, it's not going to really help me. And then she finally bullied me enough to get, because I try everything, you know, but you won't try yoga. So I did it, and I couldn't get in any of the positions. You know, there was no modifications. It was frustrating, but I figured shit out. That's what I do. I figure shit out. You tell me what to do. What do we need done? I'm going to figure out how to do it. You know, if like I never did this before in my life, but now I'm doing it. I never ran a nightclub before I was a bouncer and a bartender, but then I did it. You figure shit out. And that's the kind of people I really love working with me. People figure shit out. And so I figure out how to start modifying these positions. And then one night, I'm starting to feel like this is really helping me. But I'm also doing rehab. And up to this point, I've rehabbed both shoulder surgeries and both knee surgeries. So I know a lot about rehab. So one night I fixed the yoga positions with the rehabilitation techniques. They totally complement each other. Then I threw in the old school calisthenics, push-ups, squats, crunches. And Elliot, I had to do them. Being an athlete, you understand this, with a slow burn movement. Like a push-up is this. Now do it like this, lower, 3, 2, 1, hold 3 inches off the ground, 3, 2, 1. Now come up, 3, 2, 1. Then come down 3, hold 3, then go to cobra, then the down dog. In the beginning, I just started on my knees. Eventually, I got off my knees. Eventually, those 3-second push-ups became 5-second push-ups. 5-second push-ups become 10-second push-ups. 10-second turn into multiples. When you get off this podcast and you go to wherever you're working out, I challenge you to lower 10, 9, 8, all the way to 10, hold for 10, come up 10.
So 30 seconds,
9.
one push-up.
Right. At my peak, at 64, before I hurt this shoulder and this elbow, but now I'm coming back again off of it, getting stronger and stronger again. I got 12 of them. Excuse me, 11 3/4. On the 12th
Don't
one,
cheat that. Don't cheat that quarter, DDP. Don't you cheat that quarter.
when I was coming up, when I got to 7, I had to lower one knee. The rest of my point is, when you're engaging and flexing muscles like that, every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. That's science. Sitting down or laying down, your heart rate's the lowest ever. Sit up, your heart rate goes up. Stand, your heart rate goes up. Walk, jog, run, sprint, up, up, up. It's the same principle, but you're standing still. So now, Elliot, I've created something by accident, completely by accident, that's a kick-ass cardiovascular workout. Like if you're doing my DDPY app, which you can go to ddpyoga.com or ddpy.com and try it for 7 days for nothing. If you want to keep it, keep it. If not, blow it off. I don't give a shit either way. You know, because I only care about the people who stay on and put the work in. The bottom line is you get to try it for nothing because of the app. And not like you have to send back DVDs, you know? So the bottom line is on the app, if you're wearing a Bluetooth heart monitor, right on the app will come up your heart rate. So if it's at 65 or 75 or 82 or whatever the hell it is, there it is. Now you start flexing and engaging as you're moving, and you see it go 89, 92, 94, 97, 100, 122, 145. Holy shit, like I can see where it's, where I am.
Numbers are numbers, they never lie.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fake that. At the end of the workout, it tells you how long you weren't in the zone, in your zone, and over your zone. Zone being the fat burning zone.
Got it.
Bottom line is, I create this workout that's kick-ass cardiovascular workout, dramatically increase your flexibility, strengthen your core at a whole different level with minimal joint impact. Now, we've been sitting here for about 30, 40 minutes. At any point in time, I can take either foot and grab it and take it and put it in your face or pull it over my head at 6'4", 233 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal.
DDP, I always ask my podcast guests these last two questions as we wrap it up. One, I believe everyone has a superpower, something that makes them, be amazing in the world. They give to the world, they get back from the world. What do you think your superpower is?
Compassion.
Okay, that was an easy one. Two, look, man, you're DDP, and I'm some dude you never heard of before. Why in the world would you take an hour out of your day to come do my podcast? It's not going to do a fucking thing for you, right? Like, it's not gonna, maybe you'll get a yoga member, but how much is the yoga membership?
What'd you call it?
The DDP yoga subscription.
There you go.
Sorry. How much is it?
Well, it depends if you went for a month or 3 months or a year.
It's just what is it for 1 month or a year? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think with the discounts like $90.
Okay, so $10 a month. That's just ballpark numbers.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make $10 a month. Maybe you'll sell 10 of them. So you'll have, okay, good for you. $900 more won't touch your bank account, won't even move your life a pigeonhole. Why the fuck did you do this podcast?
Well, for starters, Marlon, who is my booking guy, he really liked you.
Okay.
He said you were a solid guy of substance. I will help and come on different people's podcasts that I think are selling the right message. I watched your talk.
Oh,
your TED talk, your TEDx.
Yeah.
And I thought you're a solid cat because I don't do many of these anymore. I used to do them all the time because just getting the word out. And to be perfectly honest with you, Elliot, if there is some person that this does hit and it does change their life, super worth it to me. Because that's what I do.
Sure.
Like when people say to me, I put out these inspirational videos every single day on my Instagram. Everything's Diamond Dallas page or at DDP Yoga. But every day on Diamond Dallas page, whether it's my Facebook page, the Reels thing that they do that comes out there, every single day I'm putting some kind of message out there that'll help, maybe change someone's life even a little or start to get them. Like I wrote Positively Unstoppable, not because of the money or the advance or any of that. And today I don't make a dime how many more get sold, but I push it all the time because I know this is a game changer. I know this can help reboot your brain. Like when people like on Cameo and they'll say to me, please inspire me. I've hit a dead spot. And I'll come up with a couple of things and a couple of stories. My cameos they're not 30 seconds. They're like 10 minutes. And because again, it could change that person. It could help them. But the number one thing that if they're not doing my program, I'll give it to them for 30 days because they got the Cameo. And what I want them to do is to do the list. Like if you come on my app, and that's why I invite everybody for 7 days to try it. Just go and look at the list. It's the very first thing that's there. It's the yellow brick road. If you really do everything on the list, it won't just change your life. It'll help you own your life. And that's what everybody wants. They want to be able to own what they're doing. And I don't mean physically own, I mean mentally own. It's all about the power. And it has nothing to do with money. I love where Mike Tyson's head's at today. I'm looking forward to going and doing his podcast when I get to LA, because he said some of the happiest days of his life were being in jail. And who would say that? But he said he was free there because there was none of the bullshit that was around. Yeah, he was in jail, but who's going to fuck with Mike Tyson, right? Nobody. but he came out of that so much stronger. Like he gets it. I actually went and saw his one-man show.
Uh-huh.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've watched it.
He is phenomenal, man. And where I live in Atlanta, Holyfield was there. And he talked about the year and how him and Holyfield have,
Yeah, they're good now.
they're great. They're
Yeah, they're
great,
good now.
So, to me, if it changes one person's life, if it makes one person think, and it doesn't have to be today, it could be a year from now.
We'll never know.
You never know. And I don't
we'll
care.
never know. You don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll happen if it's supposed to happen. If it doesn't, then hey, it doesn't.
DDP, man, thanks so much for coming on. Tell everyone where they can find your yoga, find you, all that stuff.
The main thing is that we were talking about it, those 5 things that I'm most proud of. The one is like, don't listen to a word I say about my program. Just go to that Facebook page. It's a members Facebook page. DDP Yoga, one word, and you'll know it's the right page because there's over 70,000 people helping each other.
Yeah.
It's right up there with I'm as proud of that as I am of my Hall of Fame ring. It's that powerful.
Guys, as always with every podcast, don't go out in the world and try to be DDP. Don't go out in the world and try to be Elliot. Go out in the world, be yourself, and find your own power.
Awesome, brother. Love that.